Hola, hello. I am going to prove to you that I am a true Spaniard. I am a European. I am white. But first, let's cover the history of Spain, or I should say Iberia or Hispania, so you understand the races that came here, or review what you already know. First, you have the Iberians here in the east and the south especially. Later came the Celts to the north, and they had some mixing, not all mixed. People who say that everyone has to mix, well, you ignore two obvious things. One, if everyone mixed, everyone would look the same. They would all be beige. So that's not the case. Also, if you look at a city of many races like Miami, where I used to live, you see people tend to stick together, birds of a feather stick together, which is why some sectors of the city or suburbs are Cuban, others are Nicaraguan, others are of black people or Haitian black people. It depends on your language, on your race, on your religion, and so these are tendencies. There are exceptions, but that is how it is. So when they say that the U.S. is a melting pot, that's not true. It's not a melting pot. It's a zoo. Everyone in their own area, with their own people, you know. Anyway, so, and this is about languages. The Basque language is actually my ancestors' language, Iberian, which the Celts, called Basques, adopted and claim as their own today. The only truly distinguishing feature about this people is not their race, because they look the same as the Celts around them and many of the Germanics around them. They look just like them because they are one of them. They're in the spectrum of Celts, I think. Not all Celts are redhead. They're not all gingers. A lot of them are black-haired like the Basques. So they adopted the ancient Iberian tongue, and that's how it has been preserved to this day. I plan to learn the language and teach it to my daughter, who is half Iberian, half Khmer or Khmer, Cambodian. Now here you see the Greeks and the Phoenicians in Iberia. Long, long ago, for trade, they established bases. And then came the Romans, of course. Italians tend to have bigger eyes than my race, and they themselves described Iberians as, I think, more thick or something like that. I forgot exactly what they said, but it was interesting how they compare themselves. The Latins compare themselves to their brothers, the Iberians, because Iberians, Latins, Ligurians, and Greeks, they're actually the same race that came from what is now Turkey. They came by the sea. Now here you see the Germanics, the Suevi and the Alans and the Vandals. Later came the Visigoths, of course. And the Goths are the dominant Germanic group in Iberia, apparently. So numerous were they that they took over like that. And the Goths actually had all of Italy too, didn't they? So two entire peninsulas of Europe were taken over by that race. And they came from Poland and thereabout. Goth is a word that has a cognate with a place in Sweden that sounds like Gotland or something like that, or Gotha. So that's where they're really from, Sweden. All blondes come from there. And so then the Byzantines, or Eastern Romans, the remnants of the Roman Empire of the East, they came back to Iberia and took it over. And many in Greece by that point were Slavs. So some of the people in Spain, they're Slavs. Also Portugal, as you can see over here. some of them are Slavs who originally thought themselves to be Greeks, and now they think that they're Spaniards or Portuguese, and they would like to believe they're natives, but they're not. Then came the Muslims, of course. It was mostly Berbers from this part of the world, but they were led by Arabs. However, it is noteworthy that most of the invasions came from the north, not from the south. So the blonde input was greater than the black-haired input in Iberia. Now, look at this meme. A guy who looks like a goth says, "My ancestor," in his mind, beholding a conquistador, of course. Then the Latin American criollos, or Spaniards born over there, "My ancestor." So racists of this type, not all of them are racist, but racists of this type assume or wish that everyone in America is mixed with Native Americans, or only a few are true Spaniards. Relatively, yes, few, but that's still millions of people, because it's a lot of countries. So they say that only these types, only Germanics can be true Spaniards, they say. Even though the conquistadores varied racially. There was even a black conquistador. So blonde Spaniards are unusual except in some parts of Spain due to Germanic invaders. So Juan Garrido was the black conquistador. There was Pedro Alvarado. He was blonde, and he was nicknamed Sun by the Aztec people, or the Nahuas. So he was so unusual that he had a special name given him. That's how unusual blonde Spaniards are who came to the New World. And the language of Latin America is of the southern Spanish, is of a southern Spanish variety, the Andalus, with the S sound instead of the F sound for certain words like César, Caesar, César. The original Spanish race is unlike that of this Germanic so-called king of Spain, who was of French dynasty, the Bourbon dynasty. So I am more Spanish than the so-called king of Spain. This is not a boast, I'm just explaining. I'm defending myself from racists. This video is created to defend myself from racists who claim that I'm not Spanish. And blondes like Germans who tan orange belong in cold northern or extreme southern climates, not hot lands. They have thin lips that retain heat, so they are at a disadvantage in a hot or sunny land like Cuba or España. Their light eyes reflect sunlight more, making the blazing sun of hot lands more of a problem. I was born white, as you can see. And if you don't think this is me, you just look at the hair. On the left side, it goes straight down, basically. But on the right side, it curves towards the right. Just like you can see in this picture also when I was a toddler. Here it goes down, here it goes to the right. And in videos of me as an adult, in my channel, you can see that's the same thing. It's not always apparent, but if you look careful, you'll see that's the same pattern. That is me. And I have a broad forehead. My sister used to call me Frankenstein. She's a jerk. Anyway, my hair was dark brown, so that's interesting. My favorite color hair is black hair because I saw it in the mirror and I was like, wow, it's awesome. It's cool and beautiful. Blonde hair, I used to want a girl with blonde hair when I was in elementary school. In part because they were rare in Miami, where I was. But also because, you know, it's shiny. Oh, so shiny. Yes, blonde hair is beautiful, but blonde is like emptiness. It's missing pigmentation. It feels like it's almost empty. So it reflects more light, which is nice and beautiful, but the emptiness aspect is saddening. And I prefer black hair because it feels complete. On a woman with long black hair, so good. Due to sun exposure, brown turned to black, my hair. This is Honduras. I was getting a cowboy toy. I hate cowboys. They're racist. They're American Nazis, basically. I don't like cowboys. They're not cool. Conquistadores, on the other hand, are cool. They're not racist. Most of them. as was covered earlier, there was a black conquistador. Since when have you ever heard of a black cowboy except Will Smith pretending to be one in a video on the Wild West? Wiki wiki wow, wiki wild. My skin darkened after playing under the sun of Miami. Welcome to Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami. And then here's me in Cambodia the first year, one of the worst years of my life. As you can see, I have a feature that Native Americans are not known for. So people who claim that I'm part Native American are fools. There is not a single Native American feature about me. There was, in Cambodia, a fellow teacher, a German from Texas. He admired Hitler. He lamented that Hitler lost, although he has a bit of a point that the Brits were worse than the Nazis. But he said I'm not a real Spaniard. Now, there's a French, he's not French, but he's from France. He's a Cambodian from France, and he called himself French. But he's not French, because to be French means you're Frank or a Gaul or some kind of European from France. But he was not. But on the other hand, I actually am a Spaniard. And to say that I'm not a Spaniard because I was born in Central America is like saying that you can't be white if you're South African. That's ignorance. So I put that German in his place later when I showed him a video of Germans getting destroyed by the Southern Europeans, the Romans, who took revenge on the traitor Arminius. Germanicus, the Roman, crushed the pride of the Germans when he destroyed many of their villages, and his men raped many of the German women. I love German. It's a cool language. It's actually the coolest in Europe next to Latin. Latin number one though. Anyway, so I challenged that racist German idiot, heretic, U.S. blind patriot with the U.S. flag as his blindfold. I challenged him to find a single trait in me that is Native American, and he said, because I'm short. Wow! You know, he has my same exact height, and I told him this, but he, having the surname Habsburg, I'm not making that up, his surname is Habsburg. He said, oh, well, my ancestors were always in carriages, so they didn't walk so much. That's why they're short. Wow, you can't make this stuff up. That's how stupid that guy is. Anyway, no, I'm not Native American. And when I was in Miami, a Cuban asked me, a white Cuban, because many Cubans are white, he asked me where I was from. I said Honduras. And he's like, pero no tienes nada de indio. He's like, but there's nothing Indian about you. I don't say the term Indian, but that's what he did. I prefer saying Native American, because it's accurate. So here I am in Honduras. I think Taiwan gave them the statue of Confucius. But recently I saw the news that Honduras has chosen mainland China and abandoned Taiwan because money talks. So I kind of feel bad for Taiwan, but I don't like the degeneracy of Taiwan because it's extremely liberal. By protecting my skin from the sun for years, I regained lightness. When I was a preteen, I once got darker than some black people because I didn't protect myself from the sun at all. But I regained my lightness over the years. Am I bearing of the original stock? It is possible that I have a bit of Phoenician or Jewish, though, even Celtic. I used to believe I was a Berber because I tanned, but I compared myself to Heb Khalid. He is a Berber, and that's me. Clearly, I'm not his race, so don't call me North African, you ignorant, racist fools. Berbers, me. Do you see a difference? If not, you're blind. DNA tests are garbage because their results contradict each other. They're scams, and only the gullible believe them. You don't need DNA tests to know your ancestry because your face reveals your DNA. And it helps to know your name, where you were born, to figure out where you're from. Now this guy is Lebanese, so he's a Phoenician. But he calls himself an Arab because he falls for that nonsense lie. But actually, an Arab would look like this guy. So he's not an Arab. So I look a bit like a Phoenician, but I'm still not Phoenician. And if you say I'm an Arab, you're blind. Look at him. He's clearly not like me. I'm clearly not like him, despite similarities. And the Phoenician's nose is much bigger and more curved. My dad looks like Saddam Hussein, but Saddam Hussein has a broad nose on the bottom, like Jews do. I don't have that. And my favorite singer is this goth lady. She's probably a goth. Irurne. Bye.